in 60 years. We're down to less than 10% trade union members in the private economy. That's the lowest by far in the Western world, and that is the lowest in 60 years in our country. Therefore, millions of workers go to work every day trying to raise families on $5.50, $6, $7, $8, $9 an hour. You know how many workers are making under $10 an hour? 47 million workers. That's 1 out of every 3 workers can't make a living on what they're earning. And not only that, but the minimum wage in 1968, adjusted for inflation, would be more than $2 higher than the federal minimum wage of $5.15 now. It would be up over $7.25, $7.30. We don't even have a minimum wage in this country that is equal to what workers were making in 1968. And anybody says that this booming economy isn't leaving tens of millions of American workers behind isn't facing reality. And that includes Al Gore and George Bush. As consumers. We grow up corporate, we're not sensitive to this. Let me ask you, how many of you have really gotten angry every time you buy a product from an insurance company, a car dealer, a hospital, a landlord, and you're asked to sign on the dotted line? You know, we're supposed to have freedom of contract in this country. That means that seller and buyer are supposed to be able to negotiate the terms, huh? You know what we're told to do in this country as consumers? We're told to sign on the dotted line, and if you don't like it, wait on the telephone line and never get an answer. That's what we're asked to do. Try doing it differently. Next time you go buy a car, or you go buy something from Sears on time, on credit, next time you want to buy something, and they throw these papers in front of you after figuring out your credit rating, that's another way they control you, right? You know, you get a credit card and you're in their clutch. They know information about you and invade your privacy. They can gouge you mercilessly with fees, penalties, 22% interest rates. It would have put them in jail in the 1970s, but they abolished the usury laws. Yeah. Then they use the threat of damaging your credit rating by way of blocking you from pursuing your legitimate complaint against an auto dealer. No, you know, you persist here, we'll have to report you. I mean, we're like chattels in this credit economy. But anyway, just for fun, next time you go down to one of these companies, like an auto insurance, you want to buy auto insurance, they put the fine print in front of you and you say, just a minute. I want to sit down and read it. The agent looks at you like you're crazy. You see, my mommy and daddy always told me to read everything before I signed it. And I got a chair here. I want to sit down. Got my magnifying glass. So you start going through it with a red felt pen, right? There's certain things you don't like. You cross out a paragraph here. Reduce the premium there. Get rid of an exclusion over here. Knock out the binding arbitration that strips you of your right to go to court in a dispute with the insurance company. You get it all ready, you sign it in the margin, you bring it back to the insurance agent, you say, I think we got a deal here. You sign it, it's all right. In our acerbic interactions with giant corporations over the years, we wrote a book once called "A Action Manual for Lemon Owners," you know, car lemon owners, and how you negotiate getting rid of your lemon, making the car company buy it back, using warranty laws, etc. And in the end, we drafted a consumer-friendly purchasing agreement for a car. And we said to the readers, go down to your car dealer, when you pick out that GTO or whatever you want to buy, slap this contract in front of the dealer. and say, I love this car, and I've got a good credit rating, and I pay my bills all the time, and I want you to sign it. And we ask people to tell us what their experience is like when they did it. One fellow writes back, he says, you know, I did exactly what you said. I copied this agreement. I went down to my dealer. I picked out the car I wanted. We sat down. I put this contract in front of the dealer, and he called the police on me. Another person writes us and said, did the same thing, and the dealer called him a dirty communist and chased him out of the dealer's showroom. What kind of bargaining power do we have? What kind of bargaining power? Workers, consumers, how about children? Do you know any other time in the history of cultures where parents have to protect and guard their kids against the dominant cultural motif of the society, corporate culture, that are hooking themselves into these little kids? And what are they selling these little kids? In video and television and games and toys, and what are they selling? They're selling them violence, low-grade sensuality, from junk food to pornography, and addiction as a way of life. Propaganda. And you know what? Isn't it time to start going after those corporate child molesters? Yeah! They're over-medicating kids. They're working overtime. They have new divisions of pharmaceutical companies called Pediatric Drug Division. They're spotting some aberrant behavior on youngsters, and then they give it a disease name. And then they scare the parents. They tell them, you got to get a prescription. These kids are going into these public schools. You know what their first stop is? Picking up the pills from the nurse's office. Nurses who say they don't know how to prescribe. They wonder, what are they doing there? That's what they're doing. They're feeding the profit gluttons of these giant pharmaceutical companies who are already being subsidized by our tax dollars, billions of dollars a year, and then ramming these high drug prices down the throats of desperate elderly people or cancer victims with drugs that they never spent a dime developing because they were developed at the National Institutes of Health by our tax dollars and given away free under monopoly marketing agreements to Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer and the other corporations under no price restraint, allowing them to gouge patients mercilessly, and if the patients can't pay, they have to go on Medicaid, and your tax dollars pay the drug companies for that. Pay it going in and pay it coming out. Now, Ralph, what are we made of?
Ralph,
what are, yes.
Address the military.
Yes. Now, listen. Here we have a military budget screaming over $300 billion. It's higher than it was at the height of the Cold War, and it was when it was supposed to be confronting the massive Soviet threat. Now, here we have a $320 billion military budget against a non-existent enemy. Who's our enemy? Why are we spending $70 billion a year in upfront and backup costs to keep our troops in Western Europe and East Asia, defending prosperous allies who are perfectly capable of defending themselves against non-existent enemies? I spent some time talking with retired admirals and generals and Pentagon analysts who are still on the job. And you know what they say about these weapon systems? Let me list them for you. They're not strategically needed, they can endanger pilots, and they can provoke a new arms race in the world. Here are the weapon systems. The unworkable missile defense boondoggle that already has taken $25 billion of your tax dollars under the Reagan-Bush administration.